There will not be a third temple built in Jerusalem. And the book of Revelation was written before 70 AD. Now, you can believe the Catholic Church if you want, because they had a saint who they venerated called Antipas or Antipas, which it talks about in Revelation, Jesus' faithful martyr. That's where you get the story, and that is why you believe that the book of Revelation was not written until after 92 AD, whenever Antipas died, or Antipas, whatever his name is. People say it differently, so I don't know. You're going to believe the Catholic Church story over what the Bible says. The book of Revelation actually says when it was written. It says it was written before 70 AD. People talk about Daniel and Ezekiel. Those are your two prophets that talked about the temple being built. All right? People living whenever Solomon's temple was built, they weren't preaching about a temple being built, but Solomon's temple got torn down, and Daniel and Ezekiel both lived in the 600s BC. They both lived at the time that the temple was destroyed in Jerusalem, and then there was exile in Babylon, and the temple was rebuilt in like 515 BC. So they both lived at the time the temple was destroyed. Solomon's temple was destroyed, and they prophesied about a new temple being built. Daniel said that the street would be made straight and the walls would be built again in perilous times. And it was built to its greatest splendor the time that Jesus was born. They said in history, if you had not seen Herod's temple, you'd not seen architecture, that it was the greatest building on earth. And the Messiah came then. The Messiah came and said, what did he come to do? You know, I like to just use the Bible. What did he come to do? And remember, I'm going to tell you also that the book of Revelation says that it was written before 70 AD. You don't have to go anywhere else in history. You only have to go by the Bible. You can go listen to Catholic history if you want. That's fine. Go ahead and do it. But they tell lies all the time about their history. Yeah, Peter was their first pope, and they've had popes ever since. Yep. No, it's not true. So, Jesus comes, and just ask Jesus, hey, Jesus, what'd you come to do? I came to fulfill the law and the prophets. Okay. When's this going to happen? Do you see this temple? Not one stone is going to stand upon another that's not going to be thrown down. When's the end of the age? You see this temple? That's when. All this stuff too, but this generation's not going to pass until all of this is fulfilled. Heaven and earth will pass in this generation, but not one jot or tittle shall pass from the law until all is fulfilled. And Paul said that whenever he was talking about Isaiah, he said we also read in the law. So the law and the prophets go hand in hand. Paul called the prophets the law. So not one jot or tittle passed. So let's see. You've got the temple was torn down, and then two prophets talked about the temple being built. And then the temple was built right after their lifetime, or maybe even in it. Their temple was built again then. Then after this, you've got Jesus coming, saying, I'm going to fulfill those prophets and everything. And this temple is going to be torn down. So Jesus says, you're not going to build a new temple in Jerusalem. When you try to, I'm just telling you this as somebody who can look at facts and economy and everything else and see what's going where. If you try to build a third temple, it will be World War III, the bloodiest war in history. I've got other videos on that, explaining that in detail, but that's what's going to happen if you try to destroy the Dome of the Rock and build your temple there. More proof that God's not going to allow you to build a temple. He let the Muslims build the Dome of the Rock on your mount. So the book of Revelation, here we have, Jesus says the temple will be destroyed and not rebuilt. So the book of Revelation in chapter 11 says, John, arise, measure the temple, the altar, and them that worship therein. Right? The temple was still standing. Now, whenever I tell people that, they say, that was a vision of the temple in heaven. And I say, really? Because the next verse says, but leave the court that is without the temple out, for it's given unto the Gentiles, and they shall trample the city under foot 42 months, until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. The Gentiles went up in heaven and trampled this temple underfoot 42 months? No. No, they did exactly what Jesus said in the Gospels. He said that the Gentiles would come, that the armies would come to Jerusalem, and these be the times of the Gentiles, and they shall trod in the city underfoot. And he said, these are the days of vengeance, whenever all things written shall be fulfilled. And there will be great wrath upon who? This people. Not the world, this people. The Jews. There will be great wrath upon this people, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations. And those, when you see this, look up, for your redemption draws nigh when you see the armies come to Jerusalem. I'm just saying everything that they said. I'm just using the Bible. And get out of Judea, flee to the mountains. You don't flee to the mountains whenever you're in America. It's not happening today. The temple was still standing whenever John wrote and sent it to existing churches. Those churches existed. Thyatira was a real church in Asia Minor. So was Sardis. So was Laodicea. All those churches were real, actual, physical churches who, they mistranslated this word because they put it together 200 and some years after the fact and didn't know that it already happened. You know, they were stupid, the people who translated the Bible in like 325. You know, Constantine and his minions. But those churches were still standing, and it says to the angel of the church. But that word is translated to messenger. These were actual John writing a book and send it to the 7 churches which are in Asia. Revelation already happened. At the end, Revelation has the most timestamps. Behold, I'm coming quickly. He said that to every single church. I'll come quickly. I'll remove your candlestick. Those churches don't exist anymore. This was written to them. To Daniel, 600 years before Christ, he says, seal up the vision and the prophecy whenever he's talking about this stuff. He said, for the time, this will be at the time of the end. He said, but Daniel would sleep. He said this would not be for many days. To John, he says, don't seal this. He said, for the time is at hand. This is happening now. Seal not the words of the book of this prophecy, or the sayings in this book. And he said at the end again, he said, I, Jesus, have written unto the churches, or sent unto the churches, what things must shortly be done. He also said, John writing a book, the things which were, the things which are now, and the things which must shortly come to pass. Behold, he's coming quickly. That was written whenever the temple was still standing. In 42 months, just like Jesus said it would, the armies came for 42 months from 66 to 70 AD and destroyed the temple. So I've got news for all of you. The Catholics are stupid and they're liars. Peter was not the first pope, and they don't have all this Catholic history ever since Peter. And there won't be a third temple built. Jesus already came and destroyed that temple and said not one stone in it would stand upon another, and their house would be left to them desolate. In the abomination of desolation, the armies came and destroyed it. No third temple. You don't have to go anywhere else but the Bible to see that the book of Revelation was written before 70 AD. It was actually written before 66 AD. All these things are in there. Those churches don't exist anymore. And what he wrote to them and sent to them, to the messenger of each church, not the angel, the messenger. John was on Patmos, so he couldn't go. So he sent, I think my camera's backwards, so it would actually be John's on Patmos, and he sent it right here to the 7 churches in Asia that were right here. All right? Then you could have journeyed around to Jerusalem. Am I doing that right if I'm doing it backwards? Jerusalem might have been. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's all done. You're not building a third temple, so the book of Revelation doesn't matter to us. The book of Revelation mattered to them.